Whole families are buried. Footage of burials in a city liberated from the Russian Federation has appeared. Crosses are further away than the eye can see. Mass graves have been found on the territory of the Ryazan liberated from the Russian invaders of the Kharkiv region. About this, as he writes Politka.net, said the commissioner of the missing Oleg Kitenko. There are more than 400 graves in which civilians and soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine rest. Crosses were installed on them in a hurry, many had only numbers on them. Somewhere there are surnames, somewhere there are none, but most of them are numbers. When there were attacks, when the Russian occupiers, seized Ryazan, they shelled the city, and people died right on the streets. The funeral services did not know what kind of people they were, but they took them and buried them in the cemetery, Kitenko said. He also expressed the hope that the funeral services kept a register that would help establish where people died and who they were. Some graves have wreaths, most have plaques with the inscriptions 345, 412, APU, 17 people from the morgue. It is known that 20 to 25 people are buried in the grave with a plaque about 17 soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. There are also graves of people who died during the occupation due to natural causes. In turn, the head of the investigative department of the Kharkiv region police, Sergei Bolvanov, told Sky News that about 440 graves were found at the mass grave site in Izium. All the bodies will be exhumed and sent for forensic examination to collect evidence of Russian war crimes. According to him, some of the dead were shot, some were victims of artillery fire and airstrikes. In the footage that appeared online, you can see that people died in families. So, 6-year-old Olishaya, her father and mother died on March 9. Burn in hell, scum, Russians only bring death. Throughout the occupied territory, each locality has its own butch. It's just that we can only guess what they were doing with the locals. But we won't know the whole truth anymore. We'll find everyone. We haven't reached Mariupol yet. Every time you think that it's impossible to hate Russians more. But then similar news appears. In the newly liberated cities we see these graves again, where whole young families are buried. Mom, dad, and their 6-year-old daughter. How do we get through this hell? How can we get all the weapons we need to save our people? Rest in peace. Users of social networks discuss the terrible footage of the cemetery.